I'd been looking for a used car for months. Something cheap, decent mileage, nothing fancy, just a reliable way to get to work without relying on the bus. Then I found it. A 2012 Honda Civic, low miles, great price, listed on Facebook Marketplace by a guy named Eric. His profile looked normal. A few photos with friends, some family shots, even a picture of him at a barbecue. Nothing that screamed, scan. We messaged back and forth for a few days. He was polite but kept his replies short, and he was very clear about one thing. He didn't want to meet in a public place. Said the car was at his shop, where it was being worked on, and it'd be easier if I came there. That should have been the first red flag. The address he sent me was on the far edge of town, where the streetlights get sparse and the buildings go from small businesses to old warehouses. When I pulled up, the place didn't look like a shop at all, more like an abandoned garage. One overhead light buzzed faintly above the entrance. Eric stepped out from the shadows, tall, mid-40s, wearing a faded ball cap pulled low. His smile didn't quite reach his eyes. "You made it," he said, like we were old friends. The Civic was parked just inside the open garage door. The Civic sat under the buzzing light like it had been waiting for me. It was clean, almost too clean, the kind of spotless you don't expect from a 13-year-old car. The tires still had the little rubber knobs on them, and the license plates had been removed. Eric walked around it with me, pointing out details in a low, steady voice. "New belts, new brakes. She's perfect." I nodded, trying to keep my tone casual. "Looks good. Mind if I take it for a test drive?" His smile didn't change. "Of course. But let's finish the paperwork first. Saves time." That was odd. Paperwork first. But before I could respond, he was already turning toward a small office door at the back of the garage. "Come on in." Inside, the air was stale, thick with the smell of old oil and something faintly metallic. There was a desk with no computer, just a thick folder, a landline phone, and a half-empty cup of coffee that had gone cold. He gestured to a chair. "Sit." I hesitated. "Maybe we could do the test drive." He cut me off. "You'll get your drive. Just need your license for the file." I slid it across the desk, watching as he wrote my name on a blank sheet of paper. Not a bill of sale. No header. No logo. Nothing. While he scribbled, I noticed something behind him. A metal door, the kind you'd see on a walk-in freezer. It had a heavy latch, and above it, faint scuff marks, like something had been dragged in and out. My stomach tightened. He looked up suddenly, catching my gaze. His eyes lingered on me for a beat too long before he smiled again. But it wasn't the same smile as before. "You hungry?" he asked. "Got some food in the back." I stood up. "No, I'm good. Let's just get the drive over with." For the first time, his expression hardened. "Sit." The word was sharp, and something in his tone made the hair on my arms rise. I sat back down slowly, heart thudding. He slid my license into his shirt pocket and leaned back in his chair. "It's late. Roads are slick. You sure you want to be out driving tonight?" "I'll be fine," I said, forcing a smile. There was a long pause, the only sound the faint buzz of the overhead light and the drip of water somewhere in the garage. Then he stood, walked to the metal door, and undid the latch. Cold air spilled out. I couldn't see inside, just darkness, and that faint metallic smell growing stronger. He turned back to me. "Come take a look. That's something else you might be interested in." My fight or flight instinct was screaming now. "I think I'll pass. I should get going." He stepped closer, between me and the office door. "You're not going anywhere without your license." I swallowed hard, forcing my voice to stay even. "Then give it back." He smiled again, but this time there was nothing friendly in it. "You'll get it back when we're done." From somewhere outside, a car passed, its headlights flashing briefly across the open garage door. And for a second, I thought about running, just bolting for the street. But in that second, he reached behind his back and pulled something from his waistband. A small revolver. Relax, he said softly. It's just to make sure we understand each other. My pulse roared in my ears. He gestured toward the metal door with the gun. Inside. I shook my head. No. His smile vanished completely. Inside. The cold air from the open doorway reached me now, and I caught it. The smell I'd been trying not to identify since I walked in. Blood. I stood slowly, my legs weak. The gun didn't waver. Step by step, I moved toward the open door, every part of me screaming not to. The darkness inside seemed to swallow the light from the office. My breath fogged in front of me. I stopped at the threshold. What is this? Eric's voice was calm. Storage. He nudged the barrel of the gun against my back, pushing me forward. The cold wrapped around me like a wet blanket as I stepped inside. My foot hit something soft. I looked down. It was a shoe, still on a foot. The door slammed shut behind the last sound I heard. The full breathing breast. The sound I heard before the latch clicked. The foot I refigured. The mouth. The door. The last sound I heard before the latch clicked was the foot I heard.
I pulled up outside the house at 8:12 p.m. The street was quiet. Not the kind of quiet you get in the city, where you can still hear traffic in the distance. This was thick quiet, just the sound of a sprinkler, a few houses down, and the faint hum of a porch light. The house was exactly like the listing picture. White siding, blue shutters, little flower pots on the steps. Nothing about it screamed wrong. I checked the messages again. Come to the side door. Front lock's broken. A woman's name was signed at the bottom. Linda. I stepped out, locked my car. My heels clicked softly on the driveway as I walked up the path. The side door was down a short, dimly lit path between the garage and the main house. I knocked. Come in, a voice called, muffled, female. The door was unlocked. Inside smelled faintly of furniture polish. The kitchen I stepped into was spotless, counters bare except for a single mug of coffee, still steaming. No one was there. Linda, I called. Just down here, the voice answered, from somewhere deeper in the house. I followed the sound through a short hallway, past a living room with the TV on mute. Family photos lined the wall, but every single one had the same thing in common. The faces were blurred, motion blurred, like whoever took them didn't know how to hold a camera still. Vanities in the basement, the voice said, from behind a half-open door. I hesitated at the top of the stairs. The light below was yellow, not bright enough to see clearly. She must have noticed my pause because she added, It's heavy, I'll help you carry it up. I started down, the air cold noticeably after the third step. When I reached the bottom, there was no one there. The basement was bigger than I expected, mostly empty except for a sheet-covered shape in the corner. That's when the door at the top of the stairs closed, softly. I turned back, thinking maybe it had swung shut on its own, but there was a shadow under the crack now, unmoving. Linda, I called. The shadow didn't answer. From behind me, the sheet shifted, just slightly, like a draft had passed over it. Except there was no draft. The voice came again, but not from upstairs this time. It was closer, too close. Do you still want it? The voice had come from somewhere behind the sheet, not far, maybe 3 steps. My throat went dry so fast I could feel the skin inside stick when I swallowed. I told myself there was nothing wrong, that maybe she'd just been standing there the whole time and I haven't seen her because of the light. My voice cracked. I had to try again. I just came for the vanity. The sheet shifted again, this time toward me. I took a half step back, heel tapping the cold cement floor. The light above us buzzed faintly. You'll have to help me carry it up, the voice said again. Except this time, it didn't sound like the voice from the messages. It was flatter, a little deeper. The sheet slid off in one motion. But there was no vanity underneath, just a folding chair. And sitting in it, A man. He smiled like he'd been waiting for me to see him. You came fast, he said. My heart rate jumped so hard I could hear it in my ears. I backed toward the stairs, but the shadow under the crack of the door upstairs moved, and another set of feet came down, slow and heavy. A second man appeared on the steps, bigger, hoodie pulled up over his head. He didn't say anything. Linda, I said, like maybe there was still a chance she existed and could explain this. Neither of them answered. The man in the chair leaned forward, forearms resting on his knees. You parked out front? I didn't answer. His smile twitched, almost like a spasm. We'll help you load it. The bigger one reached the floor, standing between me and the stairs. I felt the cool air from the basement settle heavier against my skin. You said you wanted it, the man in the chair said, standing now, slowly. She's ready for you. Ah, my stomach turned. She? I asked before I could stop myself. Both men just smiled. That's when I realized the basement wasn't as empty as I thought.
I don't know why I listed the Nikon that night. It wasn't urgent. I could have done it next week. But I was sitting at the kitchen counter, scrolling through bills, and the thought hit me. I don't even use the damn thing anymore. So I took the photos, wrote a short description, hit post. That was at 8:04 p.m. By 8:11, my phone buzzed. The message was short. No greeting, no questions about price. Just, still available? Can pick up tonight. I typed back, yeah, I'm home. And before I could even put the phone down, another ping. We're close, 30 minutes. At 8:40, they buzzed from downstairs, voices faint over the intercom, one deep, one lighter, almost lazy. They didn't ask for directions, just, it's us. When I opened the door, the hallway light made their shadows stretch almost to my feet. The taller one, buzz cut, maybe mid-30s, carried his shoulders forward like he didn't want to waste time. The other, stockier, broader, kept his hands in his jacket pockets. They didn't smile. Inside, I set the Nikon on the counter, expecting them to step up and look. Instead, the taller one, he introduced himself as Daniel, drifted past it, glancing instead at my living room, my hallway, the closed bedroom door. The stocky one stayed by the door but didn't lean against it, just stood there. I realized, slowly, that his position meant I'd have to go through him to get out. Inside, I set the Nikon on the counter, expecting them to step up and look. Instead, the taller one, he introduced himself as Daniel, drifted past it, glancing instead at my living room, my hallway, the closed bedroom door. The stocky one stayed by the door, but didn't lean against it, just stood there. I realized, slowly, that his position meant I'd have to go through him to get out. Daniel finally picked up the Nikon, turning it over without really looking at it. How long you had it? Couple years. You use it a lot? I shrugged, not much anymore. He set it down, still facing me, but his eyes flicked over my shoulder toward the hallway again. You live alone? The question was too casual to be casual. I told him yes. He smiled a little. By 8:47, they still hadn't talked about buying it. Daniel asked if he could just see the light in the bedroom, like it was part of checking the camera. Before I could think of a reason to say no, he was already walking down the hall. The stocky one followed, glancing at me once as he passed. I stood in the living room, hearing the thing squeak out, started. Inside, I set the Nikon on the counter, expecting them to step up and look. Instead, the taller one, he introduced himself as Daniel, drifted past it, glancing instead at my living room, my hallway, the closed bedroom door. The stocky one stayed by the door but didn't lean against it, just stood there. I realized, slowly, that his position meant I'd have to go through him to get out. Daniel finally picked up the Nikon, turning it over without really looking at it. How long you had it? Couple years. You use it a lot? I shrugged. Not much anymore. He set it down, still facing me, but his eyes flicked over my shoulder toward the hallway again. You live alone? The question was too casual to be casual. I told him yes. He smiled a little. By 8:47, they still haven't talked about buying it. Daniel asked if he could just see the light in the bedroom, like it was part of checking the camera. Before I could think of a reason to say no, he was already walking down the hall. The stocky one followed, glancing at me once as he passed, I stood in the living room, hearing the faint squeak of my closet door sliding open. No one said anything for a long few seconds. Then the door slipped shut again. They came back without a word about it. 9:02. Daniel sits on the arm of the couch. The Nikon is still on the counter, my phone next to it. The stocky one walks into my kitchen like it's his, opens my fridge, pulls out a beer, drinks half of it standing there. Daniel says, "You ever have guests over?" I shake my head. He nods like that's the answer he wanted. By 9:18, the silence is ticker. Daniel hasn't touched the Nikon again. I realize he's angled his seat so that I'm between him and the door. The stocky one has shifted closer to the hallway, blocking it without looking like he's blocking it. I tell them I've got work early. Daniel smiles without showing teeth. "Good," he says. "Then you're not going anywhere." Daniel leans in. "We're not here for the camera." The words land like a slow drop of water on glass. The stocky one finishes his beer, sets the bottle on my counter with careful precision. Then he disappears into the hallway again. The sound of my closet door opening drifts back. I try to keep breathing evenly. Daniel asks about my neighbors. I give short answers. He nods after each one like he's memorizing a map. The stocky one returns, sits on my couch, takes off his shoes, and pulls one of my blankets over his legs. Daniel watches me the whole time. The TV is on low, showing the news. They don't talk much. I realize they've arranged themselves so that no matter where I go, one of them is already there. Daniel says, "You should get some rest." I tell him I'm fine. His smile lingers a beat too long. The stocky one's asleep. Daniel's eyes are half closed, but I can tell he's not sleeping. I've stopped thinking about the Nikon. I've stopped thinking about selling anything. Then Daniel says, so softly I almost don't hear it, "You know what I like about places like this? No one notices when things change." He stands, stretches, and walks down my hallway. The bedroom door closes with that slow, final click. Silence for a full minute. Then the sound of my closet door sliding open. Nothing else. No movement. No rummaging. Just stillness. When Daniel comes back, he's smiling. "You should get some rest," he says again. "You're gonna need it." He glances at the stocky one, who's laking now, stretching, and together they walk back down the hallway. The bedroom light clicks on, then off. I stay in the chair, in the dark, while they whisper just out of sight. A muffled laugh, the sound of the closet door sliding shut again. And I know, with that cold, perfect clarity, they're not leaving. Yeah, not later. And when I finally close my eyes, if I ever do, they'll be standing there, just behind the door, waiting for me to forget they're here.
It was one of those warm nights where the air feels heavier than it should. I'd been out running errands and saw the message pop up on my phone. "Still want the headphones? $40, like we said." The seller, Mark, had been quick to reply all week. No weird gaps, no pushiness. We agreed I could swing by that evening since I was already nearby. The address he sent was in a quiet suburban street. Nothing fancy, but tidy. Porch lights glowed on either side of the road. The smell of someone grilling meat drifted faintly through the air. It was the kind of neighborhood where kids' bikes were left out on lawns and nothing bad seemed possible. I parked right in front of his place. Through a front window I saw movement, someone walking past a lit room. I texted "here." Almost instantly he replied, "Great. Side gates open. Just come around back, doors unlocked." Finishing something in the kitchen. I hesitated for half a second. I don't usually go around back when picking something up from a stranger, but the street was so quiet, so safe, that it didn't seem worth overthinking. The side path was narrower than I expected, the light from the street fading quickly behind me. Halfway along, I passed a small basement window. The blinds inside were crooked, and for just a moment, I thought I saw something pale move right up against the glass. It was gone before I could really register it. The back door was propped open just enough for the warm smell of toast to drift out. Inside, the kitchen was cluttered but homey. A folded newspaper on the table, mugs on the counter, a small dog bed in the corner. "Hey," I called. "Yeah, come in." His voice was casual, close. I stepped inside, the tile cool under my shoes. Somewhere deeper in the house, I heard running water. Then, from upstairs, a woman's voice. "Mark, It was soft, careful, almost like she didn't want to be overheard. The running water stopped. Before I could call out again, I heard slow, deliberate footsteps from the side path outside, the one I just walked down. I turned. Empty. Just shadows. "You can wait in the living room if you want," Mark called from somewhere I couldn't see. I moved toward the archway, and that's when I noticed the dog bed again. Up close, it wasn't just worn. The fabric was ripped in jagged lines, stuffing spilling out, and there were dark smears along the edges. From upstairs, the woman's voice spoke again. Only this time, she didn't say Mark, she said my name. I froze. I hadn't told him my name. Not in the messages. Not now. The account I used didn't have my real info. "Headphones are in here," his voice said, lower this time, almost like he was talking to himself. The back door behind me creaked, not closing, just moving slightly. From the living room, something shifted. A shadow against the far wall, as if someone had stood up from the couch. A man stepped halfway into view, hoodie up, hands in the front pocket, staring straight at me. He didn't speak, just looked at me like he'd been doing it for a while. From upstairs, slow, deliberate footsteps began to descend. The man in the hoodie tilted his head toward the stairs. "She's here," he said, not looking away from me. Another figure appeared in the kitchen doorway, taller, broader, wearing gloves. He shut the back door with a soft click of the lock. "Mark's ready," the tall one said. My body finally moved. I bolted down the hallway, shoulders slamming the wall, reaching for any escape. The first door I found, pantry. Shelves, jars, no way out. The tall man blocked the doorway, not even rushing. When I turned back, the man in the hoodie was inside with me, the smell of toast thick in the air. Outside the pantry, the woman's voice spoke one last time, warm and almost kind. "Close it. Don't let her out this time." The light went out.